When I'm looking at the bracket, now that we know there is a sort of a random element, there are some insane, not only first round, but second round matchups. Like the obvious one that immediately comes to mind is like Cloud9 plays PaperRex right off the bat.
Yeah, that one's going to be kind of nuts.
Someone's going to be upset after that, no matter what.
100%, because like PaperRex are obviously a fan favorite. And they still have the players that made them like super, like they've got the same roster. So again, this is like already established team. PaperRex, everybody roots for them. They've gone really far in international events before. But Cloud9 is...
Imagine if they go out in the, remember, Super Team. Imagine if they lose their first ever match. Like,
this is Ye's team.
It's going to be wild, isn't it? Yeah.
This is the team that Ye went to, has arguably the best, or at the very least, one of the most experienced IGLs in the Americas League at all. You have some of like the most skilled players. You know, Leaf was in talks of being the potential best player in the world. I think this was kind of prior to the era of Ye a little bit. Zelsis, one of the most flexible players in all of Valorant, can pretty much do anything. Zeppa, who I've always been quite vocal about the fact that this is my favorite player, full stop. And you're coached by MCE, who's like an amazing coach. So this is like a good team. And going against PaperRex, I mean, their playstyle is insane. They're aggressive. I think they're going to test Cloud9 a lot. And I think I predicted Cloud9 for this one, because we were just talking about it, but I did a video where I put my predictions out, and I'm pretty sure I predicted
because you just said like Ye or something. Ye's from Optics, so it's Cloud9. So I think it was the joke or something, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, like I think Cloud9...
Yeah, it was like Ye's from Optic and Optic's dead, so like I'm picking this team or something. It was some angle like that.
No, that was the NRG one. I said NRG were Optic and Optic were good. There you go,
right, okay.
Yeah.
I did remember half the joke.
Yeah, almost. But Cloud9, I think, super good, but the fact that Cloud9 lost 0-3 to 100 Thieves in the Red Bull Homeground Finals in December is that one, like, thing that makes me think, okay, like, maybe there's, like, we've seen some signs of weakness there. But also PaperRex, I'm going to have to get this up, because when they went really deep internationally, it wasn't in the last event. I am going to have to check real quick, though.
No, I think you're right. I think the one they went super deep.
Yeah, they came 9th to 12th at Champions, but it was Masters Copenhagen, so that was in July, where they came second.
Yes.
So, it's obviously really easy to be like, oh, well, at some point in the last year they did really well, but, what was it that caused them to kind of like fall off? Can they bring that back? And I think like one of those big things is what made PaperRex really, really good back in July. And what has always made them a good team, but is the fact that, players like Forsaken and Jing were exceptionally good at doing what they did and getting those really early picks, being very aggressive from the word go. And even though other teams knew it was going to happen, it was still really difficult to deal with. And I think by the time Champions ran around or came around, you sort of had this situation where teams had kind of become a little bit more equipped with how to deal with that. So it wasn't like they had to learn what was happening, because they were already very aware, but they'd become better equipped at dealing with it. And obviously you're going to be walking into lock-in in a brand new meta. That's going to be, a whole other thing. There are all of these changes that are happening. I mean, one of the big things that's been spoken about from a meta perspective recently is the Stinger, which for those who don't know is sort of a mid-table kind of gun that you can buy. It was like 950 credits.
Okay.
And so what was happening was, let's say you lost your pistol, your whole team could still afford like just all Stingers. And the Stinger was kind of too good for its price point.
So it was like the force spy gun, like in Counter-Strike, you'd almost never keep your default pistol. You buy like a cheap but expensive, like a cheap but powerful pistol to try and fluke the round.
But it's not a pistol. It's not a pistol.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
So it's kind of like in Valorant, that equivalent would be like maybe getting a ghost or a sheriff.
Right. Yes, like the Deagle or whatever. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I was going to say, those who watched whatever event it was that DDK casted will know what the sheriff is.
It was the major, actually. It was actually the first match of the fucking World Championship with CS. It was just come back.
I never saw it,
Isn't that wild?
I saw like people made the joke.
Literally, just coming back to CSGO and everyone's like, oh, I think he's been in Valorant. He goes, oh, would the sheriff want to kill it? Really? No, so this is more like in CSGO, we have a gun between the rifle and the pit. It's called semi-automatic machine, SMG, or like an MP5 or something.
Right, so that's what the Stinger would be.
Right.
So there are kind of two of those. There's the Stinger and the Spectre, and the Spectre is what you would expect to buy on like a half buy. So if you won your pistol or whatever, the Spectre is like 1,600 credits, but the Stinger is 950. So there's a big price difference there, but for the price, it's kind of been too powerful. So you'd get a lot of like force rounds, and you would have like people haven't been like made to go back to eco rounds or anything, because even if they lose their rifles, they can still all buy Stingers, like even Stingers with partial armor or whatever.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so that's been a big thing in the meta lately, and people have hated it, and Riot have just said, yeah, you know, we're upping the price of the Stinger, like we're changing some stuff about that. So even then, this meta that people have been playing with recently is going to change just before lock-in happens. We've got one of the maps that, you know, the map pool's changed, so that's going to be a contributing factor. And obviously, like in terms of what agents you have available to you as well. So the things that you can kind of look back on a year, 6 months ago and be like, this team was really good then, you obviously have to consider the fact that the game will have changed a certain amount in that time. And yeah, it does make me wonder, because I think that at their best, PaperRex could probably flatten Cloud9, but I could envision Cloud9 being more flexible to deal with whatever it is that is kind of the situational factors like the meta and whatever in that actual matchup.
I've got a couple of points for you. One on the thing of pricing the Stinger. That's actually the aspect about Counter-Strike even that people always forget. And I'm glad Riot gets it in Valorant, which is it's not about how powerful the gun is, because the whole game's are entirely capped and attenuated by the economy. It's also the pricing of the gun. Like in that particular scenario, maybe there's nothing wrong with the gun itself. It's just, as you say, you're almost incentivized to just gamble and never have to go to a true like force or like a safe round ever. Whereas like if you just put the price up, now at least it's a choice. Now you have to choose. Do we actually invest in this, or do we say our team maybe aren't good with them? Maybe we're the team that don't do that. Like, that's a good change for the meta. Then the other angle is there's actually a part that people who don't know CSGO won't know about Cloud9, which is when you said Zephyr is a good player there. He actually was someone in CSGO who was like a real rising talent in NA. Like, he actually did look pretty legit. His problem was he did like the Chaos team with Steel, and then he did that like, he came in at the end of the bad Henry G Cloud9 experiment, the massive team.
Oh, no.
And the problem is because he came in at the end, he basically only had something mad, like I'm going to say like a month or two, and then the project was closed. What people won't know is this team is loads of people who were on the Chaos team with Steel back in the day. Leaf, Zephyr, Vanity, and MCE as the coach were all in Chaos, which was Steel's team at the end of CSGO for like the latter year or so. So they've actually all got pre-existing history. So look, it's not the same game, but I'm pretty sure they all chose to be in the team. They must all vibe with each other. Like, as long as they're good players, this actually means that even though it's a new lineup, like there'll be some pre-existing like chemistry between players, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, Zephyr, Vanity, and Leaf were on Cloud9 Valorant anyway, so they formed a core in Valorant up until this point too. Zelsis and Ye are kind of the two that have been brought in.
And by the way, this is a 100% CSGO team, if people don't know. These are all people from the same like generation of like the next ones coming up. It's just if people don't know, part of it actually that meant they came to Valorant wasn't just Valorant. It's that when we never thought there'd be a LAN again, a lot of people switched over because it was really boring to play CSGO online, believe it or not. So there you go. Well, you're welcome. You got a whole half the generation. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.